Well, good afternoon and welcome back. It's Cassandra Good Kitchen here with you, and we are sponsored by Paralegal Services, streaming live right here in Westminster, Colorado. Well, good afternoon, and I'm certainly glad you could join us back today. As you know, we were continuing the citing from the Paralegal Help Guide, Volume 4, Tort Law. And let me say before we go further, for the first-time listeners, these books, it's a brief synopsis of tort law. Pages or formation is designed for notes on the subject topic. So basically, when I was composing the 6-volume Paralegal Help Guides, I was creating something that would allow students on their journey as becoming paralegals an additional space to record notes so that they may retain the information that they have been taught. And let me also reiterate that whether you are a freelance paralegal or if you're representing yourself as pro se, in the United States, a paralegal must be under the instructions of a licensed attorney when it comes to cases and clients. Now, if you are representing yourself pro se, I would advise that you get in touch with a licensed attorney before filing your documents for court. You want to make sure that when you go to court, you're actually bringing the correct paperwork that you are wanting the court to hear. I have said it over and over that it is really difficult to separate contract, tort law, constitutional law. It's hard to do so. However, a licensed attorney will know exactly how to guide you. Now, with that being said, again, it's Cassandra Good Kitchen here, and we will continue and finish the citing of the Paralegal Help Guide, Tort Law, Volume 4. When we left off the other day, we were speaking of the different breaches, and we won't go over that, but we will go over the key terms and their definitions. So the key terms were breach, violated, ordinance, and standard of care. Those were the 4 keywords that we broke down. And then injury. We also defined that injury is the amount pretty much of compensation. However, we learned that in contract law, opposed to tort law, injury can also be a personal injury, whether it's physical or it could be something that's worldly done against a person, which we did speak of defamation of character. So then we talked about the proximate cause, and we did define that. It equals cause, in fact, plus something that is foreseeable. Remember, you have to have causation. And as a paralegal, under the instructions of a licensed attorney, you would know exactly how to term your paperwork. Strict liability, that was another key term and definition that we broke down. So let's get to the ones we haven't broke down. And as I mentioned, we will be wrapping up the Tort Law Paralegal Help Guide Volume 4 today. So we have vicarious liability. Now that's defined as something that is experienced or done through another. It is a liability which is imposed on another by the omission or by the act of another person. So again, You want to make sure that you don't get that confused with just strict liability. A person can be held liable for another tort. And we mentioned that earlier. And once again, under the instructions of a licensed attorney, you would know how to prepare your case for your client if someone else was at fault that caused the tort to occur. Workman's compensation, I think we're pretty clear on what that is in the United States. It is a matter of insurance, and again, it is something that is received when there is a injury, which, again, we are speaking about tort law. Now, product liability, what is that? Well, it's defined as liability of a manufacturer or seller of an article for an injury caused to another person or to property by a defect in the article sold. A product liability is a tort action in which strict liability is imposed. So basically, it means the manufacturer or the seller of a defective product may be liable to third parties. Example, you could be liable if there's a bystander, and so forth, as well as to purchasers. Note, privity of contract is not a requirement in a liability case. Very important for paralegals to understand that there are so many different torts. You must be under the instructions of a licensed attorney when you're working on a case with your client. You want to make absolutely sure that you know what documents to file in behalf of your client. Now, defamation of character, like I said earlier, we broke that down. Well, we know that's something that's damaging to another's reputation. So again, in tort law, it's not only physical injury. Again, it could be something that's done verbally, defamation. So remember that. And then we have the privacy, invasion of privacy. Now, the First Amendment, and this is very important for students because when you're studying constitutional law, again, you will find out just how many of our laws kind of coincide. I mean, there's just no way to separate them, but you need to know how to apply them. You don't want to be going to a civil hearing for your client, preparing documents, when indeed it could be a federal or a constitutional breach or something of that nature. But the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, now note that the right to privacy, it's not mentioned in the Constitution, but the Supreme Court has said that several of the amendments created this right. So the right to privacy is included in other documents or in the Constitution. You'd have to read your statutes and the rules. Again, these books are designed for paralegals or students on their journey to becoming paralegals, those who need additional space for note-taking on the subject topic, something that you can have at hand and pull out readily and refresh yourself. Even if you know it, you could be a seasoned paralegal, but we all need to revisit certain laws, even as attorneys, I'm sure. You have to have those books to pull out. Our laws are revised, they change so frequently. However, the Constitution usually stays the same. Now, they do have implement new rules that are voted on, and we did speak of that in constitutional law. Then there is proof. Now, remember, proof in a tort is basically just an action. That's what proof means. It's an action. And then you have tort immunities. Well, that's the government, public officers, charitable organizations, minor children, and people who are deemed insane. Now, those are tort immunities. When you're studying in class, your professor will break all of that down for you. So again, for additional note-taking, Paralegal Help Guide, Volume 4, Tort Law is there so you can take your notes collectively in a manner that keeps everything right there for you. When we speak of award in tort law, it is simply defined as the decree, the decision, or a judgment of an arbitration or an administrative law judge. Now, remember, we spoke of mediation earlier, and so that would apply there. A jury's determination with the respect of damages, a court's order for the payment of damages or costs. So again, for paralegals who are a little ahead and you know that this particular tort runs hand in hand with contract law. Again, it is so important to be under the instructions of a licensed attorney when you are filing those documents for your client. You will also see the term as a paralegal, the legal terminology of bringing suit. Well, what is that? Well, it's defined as beginning a lawsuit. It's a simple matter of filing papers that will result in the courts issuing process compelling the defendant to appear in court. So that's the terminology. Now, another legal term that we as paralegal will come across in different cases is the legal term that is called charitable immunity doctrine. Now, we spoke of that earlier, but just as a quick reference, it's defined as the principle that relieves a charitable organization from tort of liability. So again, as you can see, going through the paralegal help guides, there is a lot of things that are, like I said before, the topics run together. Tort law, contract law, constitutional law, they all kind of run hand in hand. And in order to file what your client is seeking from the court, as a paralegal, you have to have the accurate documents filed that you, or your client, I should say, want the court to hear. Direct injury. Now, that's the last of the Paralegal Help Guide Volume 4, Tort Law. What is direct injury? Well, it's just another term that we use when it comes to tort cases, meaning an injury, which is the direct cause or result of the violation of a legal right. So, there you have it. And again, when you are trying to prepare your documents for the court, make sure, if you're going pro se, that you pick up the phone and call a licensed attorney so that you are sure when you get to court, you have the correct documents. Well, thanks for tuning in. Once again, it's Cassandra, Good Kitchen here with you. Just another little helpful tip. And again, All of the help guides can be found, all 6 volumes, at Amazon.com. Thanks for tuning in.